Alright, welcome to lesson 3.4b, multiplying and dividing decimals. This is a review. This is Mr. Bruce in again for Mr. Peterson. And let's get right to it. Okay, so when multiplying and dividing decimals, it's literally like working with any other numbers, but we got to keep track of our decimals, and sometimes there's a couple little tricks to that. Okay, the numbers are really going to come out the same. It's all where the decimals wind up. Okay, so let's deal with the first one here, multiplying 3.4 times 65. We're going to line that up just like any other multiplication problem, but we're going to pay really close attention to making sure we've got our numbers in neat columns and we stick our decimals in the right place and we don't lose track of that. Okay, so we're going to start off with 65. Oh, hold on. Alright, we're going to start off with 65 on top. Doesn't really matter which number you put up. And 3.4 underneath it. Okay, we're going to multiply that. 5 times 4 equals 20. Carry the 2 up there. 6 times 4 is 24, plus the 2 is 26. Alright, I got them lined up neatly. I'm going to erase a little 2 here so I can start off on the next set of numbers. Okay, we'll continue on multiplying. 3 times 5 is 15. We're going to put a 5 under the 6 here. Carry the 1 up. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. I'm just going to put a 9 and the 1 out front. Okay. Now I'm just going to start adding. 0, 6 and 5 is 11. Carry the 1 up here. 9 and 2 is 11. Plus 1 is 12. Carry the 1 and 2. Okay, now the only trick to this is knowing where to put your decimal. We're not just going to bring it straight down necessarily, but we're going to count over how many decimal places there are from the right. So in this case, that's 1. Okay, so we're going to start with our number all the way to the right, and we're going to carry it over 1 space. So our answer is 221.0. Alright, let's try one that's a little bit more complicated. Okay, I'm going to put my bigger number on top. I'm going to put 2.73. I'm going to leave myself some room so I have plenty of room to make sure everything's lined up correctly. Okay, and I don't have to stack the decimals right on top of each other in this case, not with multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to put my 6.1 underneath it. 6.1. Notice my decimals don't line up. That's okay. Alright, go ahead and multiply it. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I'm going to move to my next set of numbers. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1 up. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 1 is 3. Carry the 4 up. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 4 is 16. Now I'm going to add all those together, making sure I got my numbers in neat columns. 3, 8 and 7 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 and 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 6, 1. Now, my decimals. I've got 3 decimal places to move to, okay? I've got 1 on the bottom, go from here to here, right to left, and 2 on top, here to here, here to here. Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3. So I start all the way on the right, behind the 3, and I move it 3 places over. 1, 2, 3. So my final answer is 16.653. Alright, moving on to some division problems. Okay, it's just like dividing any other numbers, but there's a couple little tricks with the decimals. Again, try to be really neat about lining numbers, stacking them right on top of each other and not getting sloppy. Okay, so we'll start off with this 4.581 divided by 9. Okay, 9. Let me fix my pen here. And we're back. Alright. 9 into 4.581. Try to be as neat as we can here. Okay, 4 goes into 9 does not go into 4. Okay, let's put our decimal up top so we don't forget it later. 9 doesn't go into 4, so I'm going to put a 0 up here, but it does go into 45. 9 goes into 45 5 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Okay, 45 minus 45 is 0. Okay, but wait, we're not done. We got to keep going. We've got this 8 up here we got to deal with. Let's drop the 8 down. Does 9 go into 8? No, it doesn't. So let's bring a 0 up there. 9 times 0 is 0. So we've still got an 8. Let's drop down our 1. 9 goes into 81 9 times. So there is our answer. 0.509. Okay, so the only trick here is just knowing where your decimal place is, putting it up top early, nice and clean, and not losing track. Okay, moving on to our next division problem. A little bit more complicated, two numbers with decimals. Let's see how this works. Okay, so we've got 0.6 into 0.6 into 25.38. Okay? Now, how do we deal with these decimals? All right. I'm going to take the 0.6 and I'm going to basically times that by 10. I'm basically going to times both these numbers by 10. When I do that, I'm going to move my decimal place to the right. Okay, I moved it 1 to the right on the left hand side. It means I got to move it 1 to the right on the right hand side. Okay, now my decimal's up here. Okay, so basically I just multiplied both numbers by 10, and that's all you have to do. If I had more decimal places to move it, I would just move it, however many I needed. If my decimal place was out here by the 0.6, I would just move it twice. Okay, in this case, we only got to do it one time. All right, so 6 goes into 2 0 times. I could leave it blank, but I'm just going to put a 0 up there to keep me from putting something in the wrong spot later. Okay, place values, they matter. Okay, so I'm going to put a 0 up there. 6 goes into 25 4 times. Okay, 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract. 25 minus 24 is 1. Bring down the 3. 6 goes into 13 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. Okay, bring down the 8. 6 goes into 18 3 times. Okay, so my answer is 42.5. Okay, notice how those decimals moved over, and it made your number work out just fine. Okay, and that looks about right. Okay, I've got half of basically 25, basically pretty close to divided in half. Makes a larger number. Okay, 42 is, not quite twice as much as 25. Okay, it's always good to common sense these problems. Here, this other division problem. 4.5, that's pretty close to 5, divided by 9. Yeah, that looks reasonable. 4.5 is about half of 9, and I got an answer of about 0.5. So it's always good to common sense check these things. All right, we'll move on to the try this problems. All right, we've got two try this multiplication problems. Go ahead and pause the video and work through. When you're ready to check your answer, hit play again and we'll work through and check it out. All right, first problem, 0.42 times 7.8. Okay, and we can stack these on top of each other however you want. I'm just going to put the 4.2 up top just because that's the first number I see. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter which one goes on top. And 7.8. Okay, so we want to stack these numbers neatly, but we don't have to stack the decimals on top of each other here. Okay, not for multiplication anyway. All right, 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1 up there. 4 times 8, 32, plus 1 is 33. All right, 7 times 2 is 14. Already got the 1 carried up there from the last bit, so 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29. Add all that up. See if I can make that go away. Add that up. I've got 6. 4 plus 3 is 7. 9 plus 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 3. All right. Now, where do I put my decimal place? Well, I've got 1 place here and 2 on top. So 1, 2, 3. So I start over from the right-hand side of the problem, or the answer. How to move my decimal place 3 places over to the left. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so my answer is 3.276. Does that make sense? Yeah, that looks pretty reasonable. I've got a number of 7.8. What's 0.4 times that? Which is roughly half. Yeah, 3. That looks reasonable. Okay. So not even checking my math, I know that that could be right. It's not some crazy number. If I had something like, 32.7, then that would obviously have a decimal problem. If I had 300, then it would be a decimal problem. If I had 3 or 0.03 or less, something like that, it usually becomes pretty obvious when your decimal's in the wrong place. If you just take a step back and look at your problem and say, hey, does this make any sense? Okay, let's move on to the next one here. 3.668 divided by 0.7. Alright, so I'm going to put my 0.7 out here. 3.668 divided by. Okay, so I got to do something with these decimals. I need to move it over, so I'm dealing with a whole number on the left hand side here. So I'm going to move my decimal point one place over to the right, which means I got to do the same thing on my 3.668. I got to move it over here one space to the right. I'm going to put my decimal space, move it up top so I don't forget it later. Now I can work through my problem. So 7 doesn't go into 3 at all. I'm going to put a 0 up here just so it holds my place. I don't put something in the wrong place later. 7 into 36 goes 5 times. 5 times 7, 35. 36 minus 35 is 1. Bring the 6 down. 7 goes into 16 2 times. 7 times 2 is 14. Subtract. Gives me a remainder of 2. Drop down to 8. 28. 7 goes into 28 4 times. Okay, so my final answer is 5.24. Does that make sense? 3.68 times divided by 0.07? Yeah, that looks about reasonable. We'll call that good. Okay, you guys have probably all seen this before. Hopefully it's just a review. Might have a couple tips as far as dealing with decimals, but that's really the only thing different about this. Knowing what to do with those decimals at the end, because the actual numbers you get are going to be the same. You just got to know where to stick the decimals. Okay, if you have any questions about this, come grab me in class or Mr. Peterson and we'll help you out. Thanks for watching.